Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 132 of Adeptus Podcastus. Those numbers just keep on climbing. Joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Who apparently does the worst Geordie accent ever.
Yes, we're not going to make him repeat it. That would be an animaticus moment immediately. So no, he's not going to repeat it. And joining us as our special guest on this episode is the second half, or the other half, I should say, to be completely fair, my apologies, of the Adeptus Podcastus supply teachers. We had one on the other week, and the other has now managed to get a solo run all of their own. Ladies, gentlemen, xenos of all ages, and everything in between, I give you, from Snipe and Wib.
Hello.
Who just woke up about an hour ago.
As a general rule, if you hear me on a podcast, I probably woke up an hour ago. So, if that explains anything.
Yes, well, apologies for the slightly digging the intro. I didn't mean it.
It is fine. It is fine. I mean, to be fair, I think the only reason that I wasn't on the one where Snipe was on her own was, I think that was when I was really sick and I could barely speak. So, it's acceptable.
Mm. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on in any event, and I hope that all things are well in Snipe and Whip country.
Yeah, everything is fine. I mean, I'm still low-key Mags. I don't know if this, I'm not sure how this lined up time-wise, but I finally got a chance to play with the new Orc Codex.
Right.
And it's been a little cruel to my poor little grots, because if people don't know, I play a Grot Rebellion army because I'm an idiot like that. And well, I think the most illustrative thing is, although they've now gained toughness 3, which is admittedly quite nice, if you want to run like a specialist grot mob, the only way to do it is to give them the upgrade that means that they all smell like a sewer, and I feel like that's a personal attack.
Literal sewer goblins.
Yeah. It's like, you can make them. I can't remember the specific name for it, but they become like they're the ones that clean out the drop. So they stink real bad, so that they can hold objective points a little easier, and it's harder to hit them.
Doesn't want to go near them.
Basically, if I remember the rules right. But the reason is that they stink like poop. So that's real cool. Also, and this is like not because of like bad balance per se or anything, but just because of the units I particularly used. I was like looking through all the stratagems, and I think there's like 2 of them in the whole book that are for units I actually use. Which I was like, well, I've got all these CP, I guess I'm just using rerolls and Overwatch for them, because so yeah. I just need to get used to it, but it was like my first outing, and it was like, well, I mean, most of this new cool stuff I just can't use. That's fun.
Yeah, I've only played one game with the new Orc Codex, and it was completely off the cuff. It was before the mainstream release, so all you had was the old models. And it was quite enjoyable to have an army that could do something, because I went from the 8th edition Codex game, where I couldn't even kill a Custodian, it felt like, to the secondary game where I was 2-shotting knights with the buggies and Deathkiller Wartrike. So it was it's a noticeable power upgrade if you're using, well, Grots have gained an upgrade, but I don't know how much it really has helped them, aside from they're better at taking lasguns to the face.
Yeah, it basically, because the big problem with them when they were toughness 2 is that like regular bolter fire was wounding them on 2s, so like it gives them a little bit more, but then they've lost the I think surprisingly dangerous in large numbers rule that they used to have. They don't have that anymore, so I don't know. It's like, it feels like for the very particular hole that I personally have dug myself into, it's mostly been bad. But I appreciate that is very much on the fact that I decided to build a Grot Rebellion army, no matter how much GW obviously doesn't want you to do that.
But I've seen, I think it's in A Tale of Four Warlords in White Dwarf. One of the players in that is running a Grot Rebellion type army. However, they're doing it by essentially cheating. they're taking a Gorkanaut, but it's power. It's a broken down wreck that they put back together, and it's piloted by grots running like hamsters in wheels,
Beautiful.
and stuff. So they're still using orc units, just with lore friendly and conversions to make them look grottish. Because when I saw the Zodgrod Wartsnagger, I thought, oh, Wib's gonna love that. Oh wait, you can't use an orc.
I mean, in fairness, I do that. I a lot of, like a lot of things that aren't like killer cans and regular grots are converted things. Like my looters are all little remote control tanks, based on old plastic epic Lamb Raiders. But I unfortunately, the one game I played, every unit like that rolled so horrendously poorly that it basically didn't make a difference. Like, I've got a shock attack gun, and I think the highest strength I rolled until the very last turn when it didn't matter was, I think, strength 4.
Jeez.
On 2d6. And I was firing at Snipe's dreadnoughts, so I just didn't do fucking anything to them until the very last one when I did something stupid, like I actually pulled off a really good shot and did like 15 wounds to a dreadnought that only had 2 wounds. So
yeah, I admit I missed the old shock attack gun, where rolling a double just led to utter chaos.
I miss those old ones so much. Like, I mean, I get it. Like modern 40k has removed a lot of like the randomness and the more silly rules for. I guess when they do random, it tends to be purely on a mathematical sense now, which is sort of perfectly illustrated by the shock attack gun, which used to do all sorts of things like accidentally teleport your mech around if you did it wrong and things like that. Yeah. But now it's just everything is just dice rolls and like for randomness of how much it hits, how strong it hits, and you know how much damage it does, which is fine, but it lacks the verve of the old one.
I reckon for a lot of players who are like Space Marine players, even to an extent like Guard players, Chaos Space Marine players to an extent, a lot of the chaos factor wasn't there in their armies generally. Like they had random elements, chaos spawn, transforming into demon prince. It happened there and then in the odd army, but like Imperial armies had no randomness whatsoever that wasn't determined by a dice roll leads to a numerical number. Whereas a lot of the other armies, there was more randomness in there. And particularly for orcs, I think the loss of just random chaos, like even something like, what was it, the Ramshackle rule. The Ramshackle rule went from you ignore certain damage on a 6 to, oh, you just take 1 less damage from low strength weapons. Okay, it's more consistent, it's probably better, but it doesn't really benefit, you're a ramshackle vehicle. So you got bits bolted on all over the place. So you roll a lucky 6 and it just hits something completely pointless that looked important. That made sense almost more than, hey, bolters just do less damage. Well, not bolters particularly. Autocannons just do half damage to you. But missile launchers, they're just powerful enough to blast through. And a las cannon bolt, the thing that sniped off the tiny insignificant thing that looked important, that's unaffected now. So it's more consistent for you and your opponent, but it's also just far more boring.
Yeah.
And far more bookkeeping.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I have very mixed views on how the game has changed between 8th and 9th, but I think both of them kind of have this kind of general philosophy to them where they tried to streamline out a lot of the more weird and old style like silly rules that had been grandfathered in from like the really early days. So like the shock attack gun was one of them. And they finally excised all those, and it's like, I get why, because it was like, I'm gonna use this one weapon, and now I've got to pull up this huge table which has a bunch of different effects in it, and especially if you go back to the old, some of the older weapons, like way back to like Second Ed or whatever, you've got like a full 2 pages describing how a weapon works, which is perhaps a bit much. But I do miss those things, just because they were kind of silly and they added a bit of fun and the randomness to it, which though still technically still there is just not quite the same,
Yeah, absolutely. I just think for certain armies or certain things that at some point game balance has to not be the most important thing. I understand that particularly through 6th with Taudar and 5th with the parking lot and not Biker Star, 7th with even more Taudar and then just Mono Eldar, I understand why there was an outcry in the community of fix your game, GW. I understand why that was the case, because Forge the Narrative, which, by the way, for those who are of a slightly younger record, was a phrase GW threw into the 6th edition 40k rulebook in an excuse to try and get people to think in a narrative sense, was just turned into an absolute meme. Forge the narrative. Your game is broken, but I'm forging the narrative. And so that was memed into the floor when GW tried to lean really hard into narrative over game balance because they didn't care. Then they were made to care, or the new change in leadership decided to care, whatever you may decide, and narrative game mechanics. I'm going to stress this very carefully because I know Crusade is sat there going hello, but narrative-based game mechanics went. Like flavorful, characterful, narrative-driven, zany mechanics that really fitted the character, the army, all of this stuff went. And AOS went through the same treatment. Do you remember the time where the leader of the Ogre Kingdoms could bribe an opponent not to do anything? Do you remember the time where the Keeper of Secrets had an ability so stupid, I can't even remember what it did, but it was effectively mind control or some nonsense. I can't even remember. There were so many flavorful, stupid, broken, but... Oh, that was the one. Beastven Bray Shaman could summon Scarbrand and Archaon from out of nowhere, and it was the most annoying thing in the world. But they were fun, they were flavorful, and if they had just, been tweaked a bit to say, add a few restrictions here, maybe take a little bit of the RNG, but still leave the flavor, that would have been fine. And yes, I know Crusade, Path to Glory, they're right there going hello, but that is not a gameplay mechanic. That is a campaign system which can have a knock-on effect on the odd stat or the odd reroll or a bit of change to one thing or another in the gameplay because you went through a huge amount of what did GW want to get rid of? Flipping bookkeeping. Ugh. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant.
That's fine. I would just like to say, I at no point when I talk, I was talking about this stuff. Am I saying like, oh, new thing bad? Everything should be like the old thing.
No, we're not old man yells at clown over here.
Yeah, because I actually really liked 8th edition for for like the things like that it removed that I liked. I thought overall it was what the game needed, and I legit really like it. And I like the freedom it gave you, and that's carried over into 9th. So like,
yeah, and it's just mechanics are good. They're really good. As a game, it's fantastic. But as a game of Warhammer 40,000, it's lost a little bit of its zane.
Yeah. Oh, I will say the one thing from the new Orc Codex, because that's what started this all off, that I think is very funny, is that they finally accepted defeat when it comes to looters, because they've been putting in a spanner in that box set since, what was it, like 5th edition when those came out or something? Or 4th? And they've been putting that in the whole time, and for most of its run, no one wanted them. They were just not useful. They were like, "Why? I need 5 looters. Why are you giving me one thing I don't need?" And now they've just given up and made it so you have to take one for every 4 looters. Which is like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, that means I can't take one of the looters that I custom made. Because I only have 1 spanner, because I didn't need 2 of them for this squad before, but fine, whatever.
Yeah. Sorry, we got very, very sidetracked there.
A little bit, but it's fine. Probably. I say that as if it's my podcast, whatever.
No, it's completely fair. So, in the news, we've got quite a lot, most of which centres around GenCon 2021, which took place, we're recording this on the 26th, and it all started on the 16th, so it's been about 10 days. and about 2 weeks by the time this video hits you. And they actually revealed quite a lot of different things. There was nothing for the AOS base game, which is odd considering AOS 3 just came out, but every other system not named the Horus Heresy did have something to talk about.
Should we start off with Kill Team?
I think that was where I was going to go, yeah. So, the first thing they've done is they have, perhaps unsurprisingly, decided to create a starter set for Kill Team. So now that Kill Team Octarius is done, they have decided to create a starter box, which is Kill Team Octarius with less terrain in it. And all the other fancy bits, bobs and what's it. So it's a bit of terrain, the Commando team and the Death Corps team, and a board.
I'm sure someone out there is very annoyed because they bought the box set. They're like, "Oh, I won't. This will be the one way to get it." And they're like, "Oh, okay, fine."
Yes. I'll be honest. When I mentioned it, I was talking about the other box set.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm just going chronologically. Sorry.
Fair.
And they did also say that, perhaps unsurprisingly, the Death Corps team and the Commando team will be getting separate boxes. I will probably get the Commando box at some point. But the far more interesting point that Rem actually wanted to talk about at this point was Kill Team Chalnath.
Yes, which features Sororitas and the Tau.
Indeed.
And it later was revealed that the Sororitas, I believe, are aspirant Sororitas rather than full-fledged ones, because it seemed weird at first, because they appeared to be wearing carapace armour, because they had no power packs on their armour, and they were using things like auto pistols, which was a bit weird at first. But then they clarified it was aspirants, so I was like, oh, okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so they're called officially novitiates.
That's the word.
These trainee battle sisters, lighter armed and armoured teams train aspirants for many of the Adeptus Sororitas minor orders, carrying holy relics, and it comes with a wide range of options. You've got Electro Whip, so I guess we've got a Mistress of Repentance in training. You've got a Hospitaller, a Medic present. You've got a Vox Hailer, so a Dialogus in training, I suppose. A Repentia in training already, considering they're carrying an Eviscerator. You've got Twin Blades. You've got an actual battle sister.
I'm just curious, how do you have a Repentia in training when you become a Repentia for doing a colossal fight?
I know, it was a joke, because no sister carries an Eviscerator except Repentia. That was a bad joke.
Is it one of those things like the teacher just goes, "Oh, they're going to be trouble. Look, get used to this weapon now. You're going to see it a lot in your future."
Well, given that they put them stood next to the sister of battle, who is, according to the posing of the picture, completely side-eyeing them from behind whilst pointing the plasma pistol in their direction, who knows? This is possible. You've got one with I'm going to get its name wrong, Condemner bolt gun.
I believe it is Condemner, yeah. The crossbow one, yeah.
The crossbow one, and a little what looks like baby Crozius Arcanum. I know it's not Crozius Arcanum, don't come after me. I know it's not.
It's a beaten stick.
And then one carrying a standard as well. So they basically just said, hey, you know all those sisters named character options? We're just going to make baby ones of those. And then have one with a sensor maul and one carrying a massive goblet just because we feel like being Blood Angels for 5 minutes.
I stole this from Corbulo. Haha, you can't have it back.
I do wonder, because, like, you know, the sisters obviously had their 8th edition codex that was then quickly replaced by their 9th edition one. And I can't help but look at those and go, oh, are they going to give those rules in 40k and then immediately mean that their new codex is already a little bit out of date?
Version 2.0, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is an odd one. And actually, I don't know which, just random jump back to Orc. Did you get the limited Ed from the starter box or the general release Orc Codex web?
I got the general release one.
Because in the limited edition, in the general release one, the picture of the commandos on their bestiary slot is the new ones. But in the limited edition codex, because they hadn't revealed Kill Team yet, it's the old ones, and the pictures are the old ones.
Oh, interesting.
So mine from the starter box has the old commandos on the pictures, whereas yours will probably have the new ones. Just a random observation. Sorry, carry on. But yeah, I do think these are very nice models, and they very much feel like Battle Sisters. Like, admittedly, it's just, hey, everything Marines can do, we can do also, with creating their own scouts, but, you know.
Well, I mean, in
And
fairness...
don't worry, we'll get to the scouts later, by the way.
In fairness, at this point, Space Marines have units that do literally everything, because their codex is big enough to kill a horse with, so...
But do they have cooks?
You know what? That's the next one. They need like a cook and like a quartermaster. You know, they can do it. They can do it. I give it until 10th edition before every element of their hierarchy is modelled
Space
and
Marine galley
statted.
man.
Do they not have like a Master of the Army? Like, you know, those like named characters that they did, like the Masters of the Chapter.
Oh yeah,
with
Jesus.
all the different captains. Was there not an armory master in one of them?
I think there was, but there wasn't one about, you know, their breakfast or anything like that.
No, there wasn't one about breakfast. I'll give you. They didn't have the corpse starch machine. But
I'm just seeing it's like a dreadnought, but it's a vending machine.
Corpse start Corch.
Actually, I saw a meme of, you know, the scene with Bubblegum, Shrimp, and Forrest.
Oh, God,
I can't remember his surname. Talking about all the different ways you can cook a shrimp, but that with corpse starch. So I did see that meme. I'll go and grab it from my server. Give me a moment.
Burger shrimp. I think that's it.
Give me 2 seconds. That's
yeah,
an arrow Tactica.
But yeah, what would be the tactical benefit of dual wielding electro whips?
It looks badass.
Bayonetta channeling.
Did Bayonet use 2 whips?
No, but it's the best I've got.
I was going to say, we're not Whiplash from Iron Man 2. Basically, this is just Mickey Rourke.
I had erased that.
I would say that it is necessary to
that guy,
awaken a certain type of person into ways that they weren't previously aware of.
Let's see, 2 whips, 5 high boots. Yep.
Please don't finish that sentence. Remember whose podcast you're on.
Sorry.
I ain't going any further. I leave the implication on the table and then walk away.
Right. Now, the opponents for the Sisters Novitiates is
Before we go on, is that a medic?
With the double electro whip, yeah.
No, yeah, next to that one, yeah, with a Narcithium gauntlet.
Yes, I think so.
Right, okay. Basically, your injuries are too severe, so the power of the Emperor compels you, bye-bye. That's why she's holding the holy symbol. Right, sorry, carry on.
So yes, the opponents, as Ram mentioned, are the Tau, and given its kill team, the only Tau it was ever going to be, was a team of Pathfinders. And of course, this being kill team, they are unique Pathfinders too. And they're fine. They're nice. But they're nothing to write home about.
Is that a drone with a minigun?
That's a recon drone. That's existed for a while. The actual current Pathfinder team has one of those.
Okay. I didn't realise they actually had miniguns.
It's a burst cannon.
I will say, I do really like, there's one of them that's got like what looks like a Tau version of a robot arm, like a bionic arm. That's kind of neat to see, because obviously all the bionic arms we see are like Imperial in sort of origin.
Orc.
Or Orc, I guess, yeah. So seeing like a different version of one's just kind of neat.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of extra gubbins on all their pulse carbines. Like there's one who's got extra like systems bolted on the side. You've got one throwing an EMP grenade. It's nice to see what an EMP grenade actually properly looks like.
Beer can.
So that's quite nice. And though it's interesting that they've given that Pathfinder a breacher head rather than a standard Fire Warrior's head. I know that's a really random thing to notice, but normally that style of head is for breachers rather than strike teams and Pathfinders.
Yeah, no, you're right.
They've got a rail rifle. Good. They decided on the correct weapon. And I like how instead of having all of them having the unique Tau, the classic Tau helmet, most of them just have like, I'm assuming
visors.
Visors of some kind, which presumably allows them to track their marker light data quite well. And there's a lot of just extra little gubbins or equipment. I think there's one there that appears to be a Tau medic, and that's the first time their version of the Narthesium, which is like a pistol that they're holding in their hand. just one across to the right from the Chasselas. Chassuit. Sorry, I got my words right. Chassuit. But yeah, they
Magical
look
healing
nice.
gun. I shoot
Yes,
you better.
Yeah, it's probably. It seems like given it's got like discs in its chamber, I'm assuming it's some sort of like sort of slightly mid-range syringer that just embeds itself.
I'm just thinking, you're saying like discs in there. I'm thinking it's one of those like toys you get as a kid where they've got the foam like discs in them, and you pull the trigger and it like fires a disc across the room, and it knocks a vase off the side, and your mum gets angry.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but they look nice, and I think but compared to the Death Corps, the Sisters, and I think of the 4 new kill teams we've seen, they are the weakest. But that's probably because they're very limited in what they could actually, do without introducing new weapons, which they've just seemingly decided not to do.
I mean, they could have introduced new weapons, considering that the Tau Codex isn't out yet, so the time was there.
No, they could have done it. Yeah, absolutely. Like the Orcs have done it, the Sisters have done it, the Guard didn't do it, but they were carried off their own aesthetic and the power of shovels. But yeah, they're all right. They're all right.
It was at least nice to see Tau actually getting like
a push.
Something.
Yeah, getting something. Just because it's been a while.
Yeah, aside from Shadow Sun, I think we're going back. What was the last Tau model before Shadow Sun?
And I mean, because the actual Fire Warrior models and like the various spin-off things from that, like how old are they now?
The infantry kits are breaches were introduced in 6th edition, so I'd assume 6th edition. But they still hold up. Like, they're fine for what they want them to be. The Strike Team and Breacher Team kits are honestly fine. The Pathfinder kit is fine. A lot of the infantry is fine. The Crisis Battlesuits could do with a bit more dynamism in the poses, but I know that means mono posing because GW doesn't do anything other than mono posing.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
But generally, there aren't that many models that need replacing, aside from some of the obvious ones, like sniper drones are still in resin, Kroot are ancient, and all the Kroot spin-offs are still in resin or metal. We don't have a greater Narlock, please.
We don't speak of Vespid under any circumstances.
I have the unit of Vespid, and again, they could do with an update, please.
They could have done with an update after they were first released.
Accurate. But yeah, the core Tau range, Fire Warriors, Commanders, Battlesuits, Tanks, is fine. There's not a battle suit that I look at and go, I don't like it. There's the Storm Surge, but that's a ballistic suit, not a battle suit. It doesn't count. So the Tau range is fine. It just could do with, maybe another infantry option that looks nice, like some more, like a better Kroot option, or just something anti-armor that isn't rail and fusion,
or just something in general.
I suppose there is a thing, cause like, is the original Fire Warrior, the basic Fire Warrior, is that still like a retooling of the original kit?
I don't know how different they made it from the kit before Breaches to the kit after Breaches. I don't know, because I only started playing Tau in 7th.
Because because all I know is that I've seen the modern kit, and I've seen, because one of my mates had a Tau army that was bought years and years and years ago. And the basic warriors look the same, but it just looks like they've just retooled the parts to just be on different sprues. So, from what I can tell, but I might be wrong there. I don't know. Don't know why anyone listens to me about anything, honestly.
But yeah, the Tau range is fine. Just a few tweaks and a couple of extra unit options in different slots would be nice.
Yeah.
They've also confirmed that there'll be a Chalnath terrain box, which is just this box Kill Team Chalnath is a starter box of its own, which will come with a set of Imperial ruins that you get to fight over. And it's actually nice to go to the Chalnath Expanse for the first time. In terms of something on tabletop. I know we were there a little bit with Shadow Sun and Psyche Awakening 7, but it was a bit of a sideshow. So it's nice to go back to the Chalnath Expanse for the first time, which is the region of space with the Tau have taken. Is the challenge expanse for the Nemiar as well? I'm pretty sure it is. I'm willing to be wrong. Right, moving along. Where to next at GenCon? Because there's a few different, all the different specialist games we can go and have a look at.
Sure.
Well, I'll just say, if you want to briefly stick with 40k, do you want to talk about the Black Templars starter set?
Oh yeah, we should probably talk about that.
I mean, it's only the Black Templars, no one really gives a toss, but hey.
That's fine. They're fine, I guess.
With their aspirants with their silly haircuts.
Oh,
Yes.
I love those dorky haircuts. They're so bad. I love them.
Proper pudding bowl haircuts.
So in October, the Black Templars will be back with a probably the worst starter set army set I've ever seen. It sucks for value wise anyway.
So a Dreadnought, a few Primaris Marines, and a Marshal, and the Emperor's Champion.
Yeah, so let's take the Orc one and compare. So in the Orc one, you get 20 pretty chunky Toughness 5 infantry, a named character, a sub-character, heavy cavalry as well. So you get a big unit, 2 characters, and 2 full-size squads. Now, I know Orcs versus Marines, I get it, but this just feels tiny and this could be a blooming combat patrol if you took one of the characters out.
In total, it's only 13 miniatures, and if you did take a character out, it is basically a combat patrol.
Jesus.
And I'm going to mention the Orc combat patrol is 20 boys, a war boss with a mega chopper, Death Dread, and Death Copters, which dunks on this box.
Just a tad.
Well, I mean, there's 2 Primaris characters in there, and that's £50, because Primaris characters just cost the earth for some reason.
Yeah.
But for the miniatures that are there, we've talked very much about the Emperor's Champion in the past, and it is very, very nice. And the Marshal is very, 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 very nice. I do genuinely very much like the Marshal.
I'll be honest, when they first revealed that Marshal, without them saying it was just a generic Marshal, I honestly thought at first this was Helbrecht.
We'll get to Helbrecht.
We'll get to him, but when you just look at this model, especially with that, that headband, I generally thought this was Helbrecht at first before I realised, oh no, it's just generic Marshal.
It's certainly got a lot of the hallmarks of Helbrecht at a glance, which is a good thing, by the way, in case you weren't clear. And again, like with the Emperor's Champion, they've been very careful in how much detail they cover the armour with, because they could have gone all over the place with detail. But the tabard covers the chest plate, so you don't see any detailing there. There's no carvings or runes or symbols or chants on the legs. The shoulder pads are left pretty much barren aside from the symbols. It's very, for a model this that could have been made way over-designed and ornate, they've been just about the right level of restrained.
Yeah, I think the only over-the-top bit of ornamentation it has is that skeleton on his backpack literally going oogie boogie woo.
It's slightly excessive, but it works.
Yeah. I love the skeleton. The skeleton is amazing. It is nice to see because, one of my complaints of Primaris in general is that most of the things they release just are obviously based on the same basic design, and so it's kind of just things can become just another Primaris.
We'll get to one of those.
Yes. But there's lots of little touches on this, the segments, the way that the leg armor is segmented and things that actually break up its the basic silhouette or the armor on the side of the legs. That actually changes it up a smidge. That's just kind of nice to see because I think they have, especially the first wave, a wave of I say first wave, the whole of 8th edition's Primaris mostly. It was just, I guess that's another Primaris but with a different weapon. Okay, cool. Whereas I think they are slowly breaking out of that because, we noticed it because the old Marines used to come in so many different flavors that, you kind of got used to such a wide variety. Also, I noticed they've got the cheating shoulder pad on him. That I think they previously used on like a couple of a Space Wolf character or two.
Oh, like a slimmer one to allow more
dynamic movement. Yeah,
so they can actually put them in that pose and it not look weird. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and of course their belt is just studded with miniature skulls because of course it is.
Because it is Warhammer 40,000, and if you do not have 47 skulls on you, it's called Warhammer 40,000 because there are 40,000 skulls on everybody.
Indeed.
You just got from Hot Topic.
God, Sorry, I was just scrolling down through the page and I was just looking at the haircuts again, and I'm just like, look at this nerd.
Yes, so this is the new Crusader squad with 4 initiates. Is it 4 initiates or 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 initiates, 4 neophytes, and a sword brethren. The sword brethren looks very good. Arguably has a lot going on for a sergeant model, but it looks very, very nice, and I quite like the fact they've got like a brazier over their backpack. The initiates with the bolt rifles, the one behind the sword brethren has melting candles over his power pack. Like, how does that even work?
Well, I mean, people have been doing that on their own custom models for decades, so it's nice whenever they actually make a real one, so people don't have to make every single one of them.
You've got the Pyre-Blaster, and you've got a mix of assault intercessors and bolt intercessors, and they show that there's enough options, maybe not enough to do all of the above, but you've got a mix of bolters and pistol and chainsword in the squad, and the same among the neophytes too, which is the first confirmation we've ever seen of anything resembling a Primaris scout.
Yeah, speaking of which, why do they have ports for power armor on their arms? Because I thought they only get that, with the Black Carapace once they get promoted to, a fully fledged Space Marine, rather than being, a recruit.
Those are emergency induction ports. They're not the Black
USB
Carapace.
ports.
Yeah, it's so they can charge the phones whilst they're on the battlefield.
Naturally.
Makes perfect sense to me.
It's a charge up the electric razor so they can shave their head properly.
Got to go into battle with the official haircut of the Black Templars.
Yeah. Also, if you're going to have a hair versus hair match, you need to use a sheep shear rather than an electric razor, because electric razor will just jam up with all the wet hair. Sheep shear will go, no problem. There you go.
Okay. I consider me learned.
Take notes, Orange Cassidy. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's nice that they've actually and it was a question everyone had with the Primaris and the Black Templars, like, how are Black Templar Crusader squads going to work when there are no Primaris scouts? And to which the Black Templars said, we're just going to invent Primaris scouts and have at it.
Objection. Scouts are the same regardless whether they're firstborn or Primaris, technically speaking.
No, we've never seen a miniature for a trainee Primaris outside of power armor. It's the first time we've seen a Primaris not in some form of Mark X.
Right. Because the current scout models can be used to represent, trainee Primaris, because they all start the same way, pretty much.
This is true, and a lot of the Primaris implants do go in at the end. Good point.
Oh, here's a question, because I've skipped over this, because who reads articles? You just look at the pretty pictures. So are these all going to be the scouts, neophytes, whatever? Are they going to be in their own squad, or are they?
No, they're part of the same unit.
Okay, because that's weird. Because so one of the things that's become a real consistent thing with modern 40k is trying to get rid of any unit that was complicated, like that with radically different stats within a unit. So this is a weird one because they wouldn't. This is against their normal sort of MO of how they do their rules.
It is, but it's also, I think probably the most fundamental, unique trait about the Black Templars is they have mixed infantry squads where their scouts and their marines fight together as squires to the knights rather than independently. If you took this away from the Templars, then they're just Space Marines with too much zealotry and fancy armor.
I mean, in fairness, they did take it away from them, in
Yeah.
like 6th and 7th and
No, the
8th.
Crusader Squad was still there in 6th.
Was it?
It was a custom unit for the Black Templars was in the 6th edition Codex for the Crusader Squad. It was there.
Because the original Black Templars code was a 4th edition one.
It is, but when they were rolled into...
Was that still valid? Was that still valid in 6th?
No, but they were rolled into the Space Marine Codex in 6th ed, you're right. But they gave them the unique unit anyway.
Okay.
So Helbrecht, Grimeldus, the Emperor's Champion, and the Crusader Squad were the unique Black Templars units. I'm willing to be corrected, but I am 95% that I saw Crusader Squad as an option in my friend's 6th ed Space Marine Codex. I feel like I'm right. I'm willing to be corrected, but I feel like I'm right.
I was literally not playing the game for like 90% of 6th, so I can't say.
Yeah. But one thing they have done is the limited edition Black Templars Codex, rather than just create some new artwork, they just took the 3rd edition John Blanche artwork.
I mean, it's a good piece of artwork.
It's a fantastic piece of art, and I don't deny it. It's interesting that they didn't decide to create something new, which they've always done.
Wow. I guess for the special edition ones, I was thinking between like where there's a bunch of codexes, where there's multiple editions with the same artwork, which was always kind of a bit boring. Although it is interesting because I was literally looking through a book with this artwork on it yesterday.
Yeah. It's also worth mentioning, because there's a little teaser at the bottom of the article. Remember the certain Pyreblaster Marine? Well, they've got friends. So, are we getting a Black Templar-specific Hellblaster squad, all armed with flamers? Because if so, yes. Yes, please. Why should sisters have all the fun of purging things in a giant pile of... Oh, wait, they got rid of flavor templates. Never mind. That was the favourite thing about the old Burner Boys was just, flamer template, flamer template, flamer template, flamer template, flamer template. You are screwed, my friend.
I'll be honest, in regards to Burner Boys, all I really remember is their 3rd edition rules where their weapons counted as either a flamer or as a power weapon.
This was true all the way up to 6th.
I didn't realise that 'cause I didn't play Orcs at that time, so...
No, but the 4th ed codex is that if you didn't shoot, they counted as having power weapons. And then they just decided that they had both profiles all the time at some point.
Fair enough. But speaking about Templars, should we talk about Helbrecht?
Yes, the High Marshal has crossed the Rubicon, and he is now a Primaris Marine with a lot going on.
And has spawned a meme, technically.
Which one this time?
The one of the servitor with the cloth.
Oh, just cleaning the sword.
Yeah, I mean, if you look in the chat.
Yeah, it's a very...
right, yes, the literal corpse starch meme I showed you 20 minutes ago is referencing the thing off Outpost. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid.
Yeah, it's a very fun model. I mean, without wanting to dwell on it, it would have been nice if GW could have acknowledged the artist who made it properly and not remove his signature off it from the community until everyone shouted at them. But it's a very, very cool model.
I like the fact it comes with a helmeted option as well.
Yes, this is good. I didn't realise his armour was bronze. I thought he still had black armour, and I know that's me being an idiot, but I thought he had black armour.
Hasn't he always had, the goldy bronze armour?
Yeah, he probably has, and I've just never realised. I've just never realised.
Yeah, he's always had that. I'll be honest, I thought it was gold at first, but yeah, he's always had it.
Fair enough. I just never paid that close enough attention to the model. Or it's maybe because the middle tabard is, the black... Yeah, it's because of the black cloth. My eye gets drawn to the middle and I see, okay, that's black, therefore he's wearing a black chest plate, rather than realising, oh, wait, that's cloth. My brain just never engaged. So, yeah. There's a lot going on with the model. You've got the segmented legs that you mentioned earlier with the Marshal. That's back again. And you've got the candles... A much less skeleton-heavy backpack.
There's a bit of a... What's his name? Is it Vic Rattlehead?
Who?
Kind of vibe going on there?
I have no idea what you're referencing there.
Sorry.
Let me make sure I'm saying the right thing. Carry on.
But yeah, you got the studs in the head. It's very similar to. It calls back a lot to the classic model and just updates it quite a lot. Tactical Rock makes a return with a dead orc just for good measure because wouldn't be Helbrecht without killing some orcs because it's Armageddon.
And servitor clean the sword while it's still embedded in the orc.
They have got rid of one servitor though, because in the artwork that this references, there were 2 servitors trying to carry the combi melter. Now there's only one. And it is Ferocity, the combi melter. And it comes actually with 3 head options, 2 bare-headed options, and a helmet.
Yeah, interesting.
So I can't see what the 3rd head is from this. I think it's probably going to be shouting, not shouting, and hat.
Yes, the 3 modes
Scowling,
of Warhammer 40,000.
I really like the helmet though.
Mm. Oh, and yeah, I was yeah. Vic Rattlehead is the mascot for Megadeth, the band,
right? Okay.
And it's like a blinkered skeleton, or skull, more accurately. And yeah, it just has real Vic Rattlehead vibes. That'll have made one person who'll listen to this happy. So
Good. But yeah, it's good. And whilst I'm not. I do worry it's a bit much, but also, it calls back to classic artwork. It's a good pose. It's got a lot of unique features to it. It's a very nice model. I'm kind of glad I didn't jump on the Black Templars train all those years ago because nice as the models are, there's nothing here that's making me go, yeah, I really need to go get those Black Templars now. Might just be me.
I get that. I mean, there are definitely some nice things in there, but yeah, it's not. I think it's something which it's going to make people who were already wanting to get Black Templars. It'll appease them. But then saying that, I mean, Helbrecht has always been a bit extra, so him being incredibly extra is not actually like out of character or anything.
And it makes you wonder then. I'm assuming we'll get Primaris Grimaldus because they've done the Emperor's Champion, they've done Helbrecht. They should probably do Grimaldus too.
Not necessarily, because didn't the other chapters only have one named character go get upgrade? With the exception of the Ultramarines getting 2.
That's why the Ultramarines got 4. But
yeah, but maybe no one gives a crap about the Ultramarines.
Well, they only had one. The thing is, with the other chapters, they only had one character to upgrade for the most part.
Not really.
I mean,
not really, because Dark Angels, you had Asriel, you have Asmodai, but then they gave the Primaris upgrade to someone no one's ever even heard of. Lazarus.
True.
Blood Angels, you got Dante, you got Corbulo, and they only gave it to Mephiston.
But they've already done 2. They've done the Emperor's Champion, who is not a named character, but kind of close enough. And then Helbrecht. It just... Of the 2 they could have upgraded, I think they actually would have been better doing Grimaldus, personally.
Because I think Space Wars only got Ragnar, didn't they? Because you still got Santa, you still got Njal, you still got Ulrich. So that's like 4 characters they could have chosen from, potentially.
Did Ulrich... Ulrich got a new model, but it wasn't Primaris. No,
he got his new model back at the tail end of 7th edition.
Yeah, yes. So it's a nice model, but it's not Primaris.
Yeah,
it was a tie into Wrath of Magnus, wasn't it?
Possibly.
Or was it Curse of the Wolf? And it was one of the 2. Yeah, Warzone. It was tied into Warzone Fenris some way. I prefer him with the helmet though. I don't like his old, his bareheaded option. It's a bit meh. Not as intimidating. But that's just me.
But yeah, we'll see, I suppose, on all that. I would like there to be a Primaris Grimaldus, but with all that you just said, I think it's probably a bit less likely than I was expecting.
I'm trying to remember the Imperial Fist because they
it's Tor Garrigan. They got Tor Garrigan.
Yeah, who's and that was the first time he actually got a model, wasn't it?
It was. So Tor Garrigan, and they had to invent a character for the Iron Hands. Did they upgrade Vulcan Hestan, or did they make Tushan for the Salamanders?
It was someone else, wasn't it?
Oh God, I've forgotten now. Salamander.
It was a different character. I don't think it was anyone. It was oh god, what's his name? Bugger. Adrax. Agatone.
Agatone, yes, they made somebody else up.
And the Dark Angels, they made someone else up, even though they got a crap ton of characters for the Dark Angels to choose from.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, at least with the Raven Guard, they had Shrike get the upgrade.
And the White Scars gave it to Corsaro Khan by
Shrike
taking him off his bike.
Yeah, and Shrike ended up looking like Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3.
Leave that boy alone.
It was Karen haircut.
You can't help it.
Honestly, he's
not
need
okay.
to do Corsaro Khan on a bike. Like, they really do. Now that they've introduced Primaris bikes, they kind of need to do Corsaro Khan on a bike.
Yeah. I like to go fast, so I'll choose an upgrade that prevents me from going fast.
Indeed.
Logic.
Though, probably the other game that's had the most push, there was a big bit at GenCon, but there was some other stuff as well that we haven't discussed, was Necromunda, which has received a new terrain kit, a new gang, and a new brute for Van Saar.
Is it wrong that the part of that I found the most interesting is the really mundane terrain kit?
It's not mundane at all, it's a marketplace.
I know, but I there's something about, like, it's one of those things where it's like a bit of terrain that makes the world feel a little bit more alive and lived in. I think it's just because I'm so used to, I mean, obviously I know Necromunda is a living hive city, but like, I'm so used to terrain for games set in the 40k universe to be ruins, to be bombed out war zones, and so having something that's a living, breathing market is just really neat, and I can see those parts getting used in a lot of things, like, hypothetically, if someone wants to make a Gorka Morka game in the modern, like, if they want to run one of those in the modern day, like, those would be very useful for making, like, Mechtown.
Mechtown, yeah.
Or even for those who do the role-playing games, as if you want to, instead of having you to have a degree in cartography, you could you could build your hive city now to have these central hubs, your Diamond City in the Wasteland type thing, because that's what it reminds me of a lot, is a Fallout market as well, like a Fallout town.
I love all the market signs like stims and things, ammo and blades, rat!
Rat! I mean, it's not. They're not going to get pulled up by trading standards. You get what you get what it says on the tin.
I mean, in fairness, as far as Necromunda is concerned, if you got to see a sign that says rat, it's basically equivalent to seeing fried chicken.
Yeah. God,
no, seriously, in the newest Cal Jericho novel, like, Cal, Scabs, and Yolanda end up going to a place that sold like deep fried rat, and it's like, and eating it feels like fried chicken.
I'm actually, part of me is kind of tempted to get the terrain kit, because I feel like that could make a fun, the new orc, like, big megaphone structure thing.
The big boss bunker.
Yeah, part of me wants to kind of scratch build one of those, like, for my grots. And I feel you could do a fun thing by building a little market around it to make it like a mini mech town, because I'm doing a grot rebellion, so it would tie into the old Gorka Morka stuff. Like, that could be a fun thing. Okay, it's dangerous for me to look at things that cost money. Okay, I'll stop.
What would mini mech town be named? Like Micktown or something? I don't know.
I don't know. This would probably just be like Grot Town or something. Git Town.
Yeah, Git Town, there you go. But yeah, and we're also getting Book of the Outcast, which is outlaws and stuff.
Indeed. So there is a brand new gang, which are classed as the Waifs and Strays from outside the house system, the Dregs from the wrong end of town. So, yes, a gang of ne'er-do-wells, and I admit they are pretty good. They're basically, I know I've already made one Fallout reference, they're basically just raiders with chain weapons instead of baseball bats.
It is nice to see when GW puts out a kit that is both really characterful, but is also generic enough that you could use it in any given game that's like a post-apocalyptic kind or futuristic game. Like, I foresee these like being a staple of conversions, not just for within, like, say, making your own cultist models for 40k, but for like beyond, for anyone running a ton of different game systems, because there's just, there's like enough kind of fun there, but nothing that, apart from a couple of the weapons, really tie it hard to being dedicatedly in the 40k universe.
No, even I'm looking at this from my Age of Sigmar. Like, if you just have a city that uses black powder, like, none of this weaponry looks too advanced not to be black powder. All you'd have to do is swap, maybe change a few sigils and change the chainswords for straight blades, and they work for Sigmar as a bunch of, like, what in the day would be known as Free Company Militia, back in the days for the Empire, or just a ragtag bunch of Free Guild Guard. It would work just fine.
Yeah, I can see that.
And again, RPGs. These are the perfect default characters for running an RPG. Like,
Yeah.
especially, you can even run a Necromunda-based RPG where you start as an outlaw and you integrate yourself into the house system, and you gradually gain more bits as you work your way through the house and gain their favour. So if you, say, go down Cawdor, because that's the one that came to the top of my head, suddenly you're wearing a flaming hat, or you're carrying a two-handed chainsaw instead. These are great starter models for RPG players who, again, don't like having a degree into cartography and art and prefer to play their campaign on a tabletop, which you can still games master it, or use Zone Mortalis, use the marketplace, use the orc terrain, but instead of moving around on a screen or on a piece of paper, this could be a really good set of miniatures to sort of play the RPGs. I don't know. I'm not an RPG player particularly, but it's something that strikes me as the way that I would find to access it, because accessing the RPGs when they're so non-visual, in terms of you've got to follow so many details and then do all the mapping stuff, it's much more of a pain than like building a map out of table pieces and using miniatures. I don't know, personal preference.
I think there's definitely going to see these getting used in like Inquisimunda campaigns and things like that. So yeah.
Why haven't we actually had a proper Necromunda tabletop RPG yet?
Ask GW.
Yeah, GW doesn't really seem to be particularly concerned with making their own RPGs. Like, they're happy to license them out. But like, I mean, I guess there is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, because that's still made in house, isn't it?
I have no idea.
But when's that last had an update? I don't know. I guess that's been entirely replaced by Soulbound now, like in their eyes. So.
And speaking of models that are just generic enough to work in other game systems, can we take a quick glance across at the servo suit, or the Arachnorig, which is the Vansar root unit?
Big spider boy.
I really want to see.
Have 8 limbs.
I really want to see that model like in person, because the like pose of it looks really weird and unbalanced, like from the one image, like the image that you can see of it.
Well, if you look at the artwork, it is really unbalanced.
Oh my god! I just realized what it just reminds me of. It looks like a Tachikoma.
Oh, what?
What?
All right, it's a Ghost in the Shell reference, but yeah, it's like the model reminds me of the spider tanks from.
Those things, yeah.
Yeah, Tachikomas, yeah. The Vansar get bloody Tachikomas. You tell me you don't see the similarity there.
The colour scheme helps.
Yeah, there's a little bit. I think it's just like, the artwork, like its center of gravity looks a little bit more towards the middle, whereas on the model, on the image of the model that they're showing, it looks way far to the back. And I think it's just kind of the pose of it from that angle. So I really want to see it from other angles to see how it kind of looks.
Yeah,
but it's fun. It's a fun, weird little thing.
Just like Vansar in general.
Well, yeah.
It's very much like it doesn't feel out of place in Necromunda, but it could only exist in House Vansar.
Oh yeah, I always look at Vansar models and think, wow, that looks like it belongs in Infinity, but not without the GW heroic scaling.
I mean, it's not as bad as House Delac, having literal Cthulhu deep ones.
Oh, let's just not go back to the Deluxe Specialists and the blooming brainworms and psycho children and just no, not again.
In fairness, you did get the robot geishas, which were cool.
Was it worth psycho babies?
I mean,
was it, Ram?
It's not as bad as that one time where, a squad of Grey Knights was killed by a baby.
I know, but we didn't have to see that.
Well, maybe someone should animate that scene from the novel then. Come on, animators, get that scene from Atlas Infernal, animated. Chevek takes out a baby, shoves it in a bunch of Grey Knights, and the Grey Knights explode because of the baby. There you go. Awesome
I do. I do like how Necromunda has basically, I guess, between that and like to a lesser extent, like Blackstone Fortress, has allowed them to like play around with things in the way that like really old 40k used to. I just kind of like, I feel like making this weird shit. Where can we put it in? Which
Necromunda, fuck it.
Yeah, it can go in Necromunda. We can put in this weird thing. I've designed this like hero character that absolutely would not fit in anything ever that is mainline 40k. But this would be a great mercenary for Necromunda. And yeah, I just really appreciate that. It's having fun with the setting in a way that a lot of the main armies, due to the nature of them having to be armies, can't really do.
Agreed. Though if you are wanting equally zany and equally smashy miniatures, but are not too fussed about the cyberpunk aesthetic of Necromunda, then may I draw your attention from the heavy metal of Vansar to the heavy metal of brass armour on the gridiron.
Yep, Blood Bowl. Oh, Wib, you gotta tell us what Snipe's objective review scores of these are, because you missed them for your video.
Oh, yeah, because they literally... So we recorded that video like a month beforehand, and then we released it, and I actually released it a day early, because I turned to Snipe, I was like, I kind of feel like releasing this today, why not? And so we did it, and then these were announced the next day. So I was like, oh good, at least we had like 12 hours where our video was like, not out of date, but hey-ho. I don't know what her objective score is, although... When I showed them to her, she wasn't like super enthused by them. So,
did she not even like the core gores?
I don't know. Maybe she wasn't looking close enough. Because I think if she was looking closer at that, she would probably give them a higher rating. I will let you know. I will let you know because she is not present at the moment, so I can't ask her.
Fair enough.
Indeed. So this is the new Khorne Blood Bowl team, the Skull Tribe Slaughterers, of course. And you get 6 Marauders with brass knucks and mutations and all that stuff, basic humans. 4 Bloodseekers, which is kind of imitating the blood... It's kind of imitating the Khorne Bloodbound, where you've got the Blood Warriors and the... what's the name of the basic infantry in Khorne Bloodbound? It'll hit me in a minute.
Basically, the Warhammer Fantasy version of Khorne Berserkers.
Yes, these are the Fantasy Khorne Berserkers, I guess. 2 Khorne Gore. So this is the first time we've seen Khornate Beastmen. In fact, these are Bestigors, not just basic Beastmen. These are Bestigors with the Mark of Khorne, which now I think completes the set because we've got Zangor, we've got Slangor, we've got Khorne Gore, and I believe we've had Pestigor somewhere
in the Nurgle team.
There's Pestigor with an enormous bulge.
Yeah, so AOS has 2 of them, and Blood Bowl has 2 of them.
So there you go, yes. Oh, there was also GW celebrating the 1 million customers online with a miniature that some people aren't too happy with because of the returns policy, because like, if you have to return any part of your order, then you have to return the model as well.
Oh, fuck off.
So, this is what we were talking about earlier about generic Bob the Marine. We were mentioning it was about 40 minutes ago, it feels like.
I'm sorry. His name is Castus the Marine, not Bob.
He is just super generic in every single way. It is just a Primaris sergeant with a plasma pistol and a chainsword standing on a tactical rock, and it's boring. Like,
And
look, you put battle damage on. That's the only thing that makes this unique from any other Primaris Marine.
In
I
fairness-
totally couldn't have done that with a drill.
in fairness, we do get the Poggers Necron.
What?
Top right.
Yes, I suppose.
Right, so that's a new emote for someone's Twitch channel.
Yeah.
Right, so now all Warhammer Twitch streamers, instead of using whatever the PogChamp emote is, you now must use this Necron head and just turn it round, and that is your new PogChamp emote. Tell all your chats now.
The one thing I did find a little interesting about it is that the Necron who's like reaching up, it sort of shows that the paneling around their arms is like a separate piece that can be knocked off, I guess.
Yeah, it's like they've got their arm and then they've got their armor.
Yeah, because I guess you kind of think of them as just being a chunk, like, because they're just living metal robots. But yeah, so it's like that. That's the. I mean, it probably says a lot about the miniature that's the most interesting thing I noticed about it. But but yeah, it's a bit generic, and I don't know. It feels a bit gauche to like say, oh yeah, thank you for like 1 million customers now spend £150 to get a generic model. Like, oh.
Yes,
Okay.
and to quote what Rem has just copied in, returns in products with a qualifying order are returned. The return products bring the order value below the qualifying order value, and the Sergeant Castus model must also be returned. Games Workshop reserves the right to withhold refunds of returns until the Sergeant Castus model has been returned. Ding dong.
So hello, eBay.
Sorry, I've got a knack of reading the customer service voice.
Like, I get why, but also... like, yeah. It's like
I do get it, because people would otherwise just save scum a bit.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, they've made a situation for themselves where it's, you know, it was bound to annoy people somehow. And, like, I get why so many of their like, event miniatures are generic. Because they've got like they're filed for generic Primaris, and they can drop that into the thing, put it into a new pose, and have that made. And that doesn't require committing sculptors who could be doing the mainline models for the things that are going to be released and out for years. Like it makes sense, but also it means that I think I said this on Twitter. Like it leads to a lot of their event miniatures not really feeling like an event.
Yeah, it's like, I remember, I admittedly never really looked too hard at event miniatures because I was never going to go. But the Games Day miniature felt like an event. It felt like if you had maybe it's because I was a child, I was a teenager, and I didn't really notice. But if you had the Games Day model, or you had such and such a model, it felt like a big deal.
It did,
and one thing that they've done really well with some of the events, like if you look at the models that have been available in some of the American events, if you've been going to the grand tournaments, they've had things like the Dark Oath War Chief or the Dark Oath War Queen, whatever it is, who is completely unique. And they've shown that they are willing to do unique event miniatures, even for things that don't have proper gameplay applications yet. And even like the Necron Overlord they did. I swear they did like a Necron Overlord or a Plasmancer or something as well that looked pretty unique.
I mean, it would have been nice, instead of just getting, a sergeant or a lieutenant or whatever, if we got someone unknown, like a standard bearer or a chaplain or an apothecary.
Or even if they just weren't in the standard, like, type of like Primaris armor. You've got your Gravis, you've got your Phobos armor. There are variants of it.
You have like a unique aggressor or something.
Yeah, there's lots of variants of that armor, and it's always weird to me that they just pick generic Primaris. And like I get it that like in general, the Primaris line is much more unified than the older ones, because like you buy a tactical squad box and you've got multiple marks of armor represented in there. Whereas the Primaris armor is the one mark of armor with not as much variation in it. So it canonically makes sense, but canon doesn't make me excited to buy a model. Generally speaking, I'm excited by the model itself.
And there are so many different. Rem just listed them off. Like And the other thing that I do find is the way that they've done the Primaris character range. We'll ignore the ludicrous cost of them that you mentioned earlier with the Marshal and stuff. But the way they're designed is this captain has this gun, this melee weapon, and this pose. You can paint them any colour you like, but it's not like the Space Marine Commander kit. And what I think they should do, and I know this is going to sound like heresy in the modern era, is take all the Primaris Captain kits that exist, retire all of them, and replace them with the Primaris Captain kit, and make it so that it makes 2 characters. One in basic and one in Gravis. Hell, have it make 3. If you really want to scam people, have it make it in Gravis, in basic, and in Phobos. Have all the options represent, or just Gravis and Phobos if you think one in the basic kit doesn't fit with the commanders. And just give us all the guns, all the melee weapons, all the heads that you've ever made, a couple of different capes, maybe like a cape option and a no cape option, a banner option on the backpack, or not, and stuff, and just let people experiment, because I promise you, if you let hobbyists tinker, then you get the best looking models that you will ever make. And if you put that option to make the tinkering canonical, because it's in a canonical kit that's tinkerable, rather than forcing people to learn a degree in green stuff, because God, I hate green stuff, just make the kits multi-part and multi-pose again. I know I ranted about this last episode as well, but please, just fix that. There's nothing more boring than 5 different variants of one bloody character.
I 100% get you, because it is one of the things that I don't like as much about modern kits, is that, you get them, they're in one pose, this is how they are. And I kind of miss it. Like, I recently built an old school tactical squad, and like, just how much you can play around with the poses, and like, I don't like, I want to have this head. Oh, well, I've literally got a bits box with 40 different heads collected over 20 years. And they're all interchangeable. And not being able to do that stuff anywhere near as easy. It is a shame. And, I think, it's part of just how they're kind of wanting to do things now. Every kit is, every stat line is, that's the kit, which is why there's so many units that have such limited options.
But the Primaris Captain kit isn't that. The Primaris Captain datasheet has 17 gajillion options because they've made 17 gajillion kits.
Actually, is there a... I always forget, have they actually made like a regular Gravis armoured like captain that you can buy, or is it only it's only the one from Dark Imperium that they reboxed?
I'm going to have to look on that one.
I know there is a couple of characters who are in Gravis armour, but...
Yeah, there are, but... In terms of, off the top of my head, can I think of one? No. But there probably is, and I've just forgotten. Also,
I'm sorry to come on, and I apparently have just fueled a complaint about Games Workshop for an hour.
No, it's fine. Right, Space Marines HQ. Right, Captain with a heavy bolt rifle. That's Dark Imperium guy, so we need to move past him. Space Marine Commander is now online only. God, I missed that kit. And I never thought I'd see that day. That's Cato Scaris before you get an upgrade. There's the Reaver Lieutenant. There's the Power Sword Lieutenant. There's the Phobos Librarian, Primaris Chaplain, Phobos Captain, Generabob Primaris Captain, which does it come with any weapon options? I'm genuinely curious. It's 21 components. It has 2 head options, a blank or smooth shoulder pad option. It comes with either a bolt rifle or a stalker pattern bolt rifle, or a power sword or a point.
Oh, so, yeah. That kit does at least have a couple of options.
It has 1 melee weapon option and pointing. It has no combi weapon options or anything like that. Chaplain on bike. Nope, there's no generic Gravis guy apart from the one from Dark Imperium.
Okay.
Which you can't even get anymore, can you?
No, it's available from the web store. It's a separate option on the web store.
Oh, is it?
It's there. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they reboxed all the like unique things from that a little while ago.
Yeah, they did. Right, we do need to motor. I've just looked at the clock. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes, and we're still on GenCon and stuff. So, quickly, Warhammer Underworlds is getting a new season with the Cruel Boys and another option for Stormcast, these times in Thunderstrike. And they finally gave us one with a Thunderhammer, thank you very much. One with a bow and a new bird. The Cruel Boys have a Runt Herd with a Grot Prod, a couple of Hobgrots. They're alright, nothing particularly to write home about, but I like the models in general, they're okay. Destroyer squads are back for the Horus Heresy, so if you missed them, well, they are back. I hope that however many people are still playing Horus Heresy are happy about it. Grand Cathay got a trailer for Total War Warhammer 3 that looked very pretty. So yes, Cathay fans, they have definitely taken the time to properly do Cathay. Also, they have floating Metallith islands, and I did not know this was a thing. So I'm very happy about that. That is an article about the Twice Dead King. I'll be buying that when it comes out. And a bunch of McFarlane action figures. So some Space Marines, some Orcs, and some Tyranids, including the weirdest Orc skin paint I've ever seen because it is radioactive green, and I hate it.
So just like any 90s toy that ever existed.
Yeah, that's one of where that kind of color under the sort of harsh lighting that they have for like showing off a product is going to be even more green. Like, I would be interested to see it in person. Although I looking at the vibrancy of it, I don't think it's going to improve it much. But
I tell you what the color green reminds me of. It reminds me of Rhinox from Beast Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But at least that had an excuse of being from 1996.
Yeah, if I'm going to buy any of them, I will buy the artist proof. With the possible exception of the Gene Stealer, because that actually looks okay. The bone colour on the Gene Stealer looks okay.
Yeah, I actually really like the Gene Stealer. It's it sort of messes around with the design a little bit in ways that I think are quite fun.
I'm generally surprised they didn't go for the standalone Gene Stealer colour scheme of blue and purple, but then again, considering they had a bunch of Ultramarines recently, they probably didn't want too much blue in the line.
Possibly. And to be fair,
that's an Imgar Gene Stealer.
Yeah. And to be fair, that coloration of Gene Stealer is kind of the High Fleet Leviathan one is the one they use as the generic one these days anyway.
Yeah.
Even more than the Gene Stealer Cults one in some ways.
Yeah.
Gene Stealer Cult one's superior though, we can all agree.
Oh yeah, I like them a lot better, but but you know.
Yes. But yeah. You can also now get a grapnel launcher Marine as an artist proof. So if you want to have Harpoon Guy, you can. But you have to paint it yourself. Whereas the Reavie that it comes pre-painted has a bolt carbine, so is infinitely more boring.
There's something about the face of the Reaver one that's just really goofy,
Derpy.
but in like a really adorable way. Like I know obviously it's a skeleton face, but he's got real Skeletor energy, and I kind of approve.
It looks
of that.
like it walks out of Undertale. Just with the way the teeth are carved in, that are slightly crooked and cartoonishly large, it looks like it walked out of Undertale.
I'm now just whenever I see Reaver's bone tussle is just going to erupt into my head. I'm not going to be able to deal with that.
Sorry.
I'm okay with it. Oh, but you know now I've mentioned the Skeletor thing. Oh, I really want to paint a Reaver in like Skeletor colours, like a bright face. Ah. I know someone else will definitely have done it, but I really want to do that now. That sounds
so who's
like
going to be He-Man?
I guess I could get one of the Cornate like shirtless guys or something.
There's plenty of them in Bloodbound.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Right. I think as a apology for not doing it last episode, since we spent so long talking about Godblight and what did Narina call the Godblight again? It was something really silly.
I can't remember.
Anyway, but because we didn't get a chance to do some questions last time, I think we'll dedicate a slightly longer section to answering your questions, and we'll see how we go for time in terms of talking about some other stuff.
Yeah. I didn't get too many questions on my end, so I don't know if you want to go for the ones on your end. So I don't know how many questions you had from. on your end?
I'll probably have a chunk. I just need to render that episode because I didn't think I had to go and do that. So if there's one particular that you've seen that stood out, start there and I'll catch you up.
Okay, I need to go on to your page then because I got the questions.
No, go on yours.
I got mine. I've got mine up. So I was talking about the one from.
Start there. I'll look at mine and you start.
Right. Confusion.
Sorry.
Right. What characters from Warhammer books would you like to see get a tabletop model who hasn't already had one?
How long a list have you got? Well, okay. I'll start with the obvious: Malerian and Tyrion, please. I'll start with I'll start at the top and we'll work our way down.
You can just go for Tyrion. You can just go for his old Warhammer fantasy model. There you go. That's it. He technically has one. It's just can't get anymore.
I know. But yes, Malerian and Tyrion are low-hanging fruit, but they're there, and I had to mention them.
You could have Ravener in his wheelchair. His anti-grav wheelchair, like Professor X.
I would quite like to get. I know he already has a model, but I'd quite like a Garviel Loken that isn't the one that's released because I don't like that one.
Like Knight Errant Garviel Loken.
Yeah, that'd be nice, actually.
Just honestly, just anything, because obviously, in your mind's eye, everyone's is going to be slightly unique. But when the model came out, and I was like, that is not the character I see in my head when I read those books.
Actually, on that, Shadowkin, please.
Nasir Amit.
That would be nice. There's a lot of heresy characters they haven't done. In all truth.
Oh, I know. Jagatai Khan.
Oh, low-hanging fruit, we know, but yeah, it's got to be mentioned.
The low-hanging fruit rather would be the Emperor, but we know he's going to get one at some point. Just like Jagatai.
We know that's coming.
Just like Jagatai, but it probably won't be for a while because they're probably debating: do we have him on foot? Do we have him on bike? Do we have him on a jet bike? Or do we have him pretending he's the Hawk? I don't know. Or the Falcon, whatever the guy's name is. I don't know. I don't have Disney Plus. Right. Gotrek and Felix live-action TV series or animated series?
Animated, but in a gritty style.
Animated, so you can have Brian Blessed do the voice of Gotrek.
And that.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said for there are certain settings that I think are going to be better served by animation regardless, and I think any of the Warhammer settings generally would be, because it's kind of too... The budget it would require to do these things properly is so big to do them live action that you might as well just do them animated.
Gotrek and Felix anime. You can make Felix proper Bishonen then.
There is an image in my head that I wish I could transmit to you, but it will have to.
Does it involve a lot of high glaring light and rose petals flying across the screen?
Yes, it's a thing of beauty, and I wish I had the artistic
with blonde hair
skill
flowing in the wind.
I wish I had the artistic skill to render it, but I do not. I'm afraid.
You can tell Snipe to draw it later.
Actually, yeah, she'd be better off at that.
Right. Do we have any info on what the original Necron homeworld looks like today, and which dynasties sleep there?
No, and no.
That's presuming if it actually still existed, because for all we know, the old ones could have bombed it out of existence.
Well, we know it was a dying world. So
in third edition lore, it was a dying world, definitely. But remember Necron lore.
Oh yes, the great Necretcon. Yes,
Netcron. Yeah.
I suppose they could do a fun thing where it could be a thing where that planet has died and it has since been repurposed by another faction and they don't actually realize it, and then you could do that could be an event.
I just remembered
the original or the original faction waking up or whatever. You could do a fun thing like that.
I just remembered. In Sons of the Hydra, Alpha Legion Warband goes to this world that's right close to the galactic core, and it's full of Necron tech, and it's implied to be one of the original Necron colony worlds or something.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact details, but I'm pretty sure it was heavily implied to be like one of the original Necron worlds. I don't want to say the Necron homeworld, because...
Yeah, I tell you what needs to happen is that should be where the Infinite and the Divine 2 goes. Like, can you just imagine Trazyn and Orican traipsing around the ruins of their civilization's home? Like, trying to harness the primal technology of the Necrontyr to murder each other? Like, yeah, I'm down for that.
I don't know why, I just had this mental image of Trazyn and Orican go to White Castle.
Dear, oh dear.
Someone's going to be writing in the comments saying, someone's going to be listening and saying, bloody hell, was that Harold and Kumar reference in 2021? Fucking hell.
It could be worse. You could have referenced Dude, Where's My Car?
Oh god, I forgot that was a thing.
Isn't that coming back?
Oh, please don't tell me that.
There's a Dude, Where's My Car too?
No, I was thinking...
Dude Harder.
Oh, hang on. No, sorry, I'm getting mixed up with Bill and Ted. Sorry, ignore me.
Bill and Ted came back.
That with Bill and Ted?
I'm an idiot, because they use the word dude a lot. Okay, fine, I'm stupid. Shut up.
Bill and Ted had the excuse of it being the late 80s and early 90s. They could get away with it.
I wasn't born in either event, so ignore me.
God. Do not dare confuse Ashton Kutcher with Keanu Reeves. Thank you very much.
Right, I haven't actually seen the new Bill and Ted. I heard it's quite good.
I haven't seen it yet though, but I want to though.
Yeah, I've heard it actually like does a lot of fun things with it, and yeah, I want to see it. I haven't got around to it.
Yeah, same here. Right. Right. If you had to choose between Mad Dog Grotznick, Fabius Bile, Urian Rakarth, or Belisarius Cawl to operate on you, who would you pick and why?
Call.
Yeah, probably Call.
That's not up for debate.
The one that is most likely, not likely, but most likely to do what was necessary and not do something else as well.
Yes, Grotznick, you're going to get a squig brain. Fabius Bile, just no. And Urian Rakarth, even more just no.
Grotznick will be like, okay, so you got a pain in your leg. Okay, I replaced your skull with a bomb. Beep.
It's like, well, I mean, I noticed that you had a perfectly good arm, but it wasn't a gun.
So I replaced it with a squig.
Yeah.
But don't worry, it's one of them Belcher squigs that shoots fire, so you get to be a burner boy at the same time. I saw you hanging around with the pyros that one time.
It's like, what you'd get would probably be cool, but, you know, it wouldn't be what you asked for.
And it would kill you.
And it would definitely kill you the first time you used it, yes.
Right, question for Tag, hang on, wrong one. Okay, question for Tag, is September the month of the Tau?
I wish.
I mean,
they
got a thing announced.
They got a thing announced, but also October happened a month early this year rather than a month late.
Yeah.
We're still never going to forget, Happy October. Here's some Slanesh models.
Yes. And all the Orc models that we showed you, they're in November. Have fun.
GW's not good with, like, dates
Timing.
or events or timing.
Or returns policies. I will play devil advocate in regards to things like missing pieces of orders and stuff. If I've ever had a problem with an order, they actually have been generally pretty good in response.
Oh yeah, in that regard, they are actually notoriously very good.
Like, I had a copy of Visions of Heresy, and the top corner of it was torn. I was like, hey, I spent about 50 quid on this book and it's damaged. Oh, keep that, we'll send you another one. Oh, cheers.
Oh, nice. Yeah, like for all like low-key complaining when it comes to stuff like that. I don't think I've ever heard someone say they've had a bad experience.
I mean, I sent an email. I'd lost my Commander Farsight header. It didn't have one in the kit, and they said tough because we haven't got any spares in stock.
Charming.
All right. Well, okay, then that's one.
It was fine because it's a Tau Commander's head. They're pretty generic to begin with. But yeah, they did say I couldn't get a spare head for my Farsight.
That sucks.
They replaced Teclis' base, though. That was something.
Fun enough, with the first set of Horus Heresy print on demand, some of the pages for some of the books I received were like damaged, like they were been poorly poorly cut in the printing press, so they're like shredded in some places. And it's like, can I have replacements? It's like, it's print on demand, you can't have any replacements. We'll just refund your entire order. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to complain about that. It's like, hey, I got first 5 books of Horus Heresy for free. Nice. Right. Does the Imperium actually manage any spendings on Space Marine equipment, or do the Space Marines have to maintain their own production on weapons and equipment?
Does the Imperium manage spending?
Well, they have to collect tithes, so money's coming from somewhere.
It's coming from somewhere, but do you... I mean, the Administratum is so sprawling that trying to manage the budget of each individual chapter is not something the Administratum is going to be able to do.
I've always got the budget for the 10,000 psychers for the Astronomicon this month.
I've always interpreted Space Marine chapters being akin to a franchised McDonald's. They can use all the branding, but they are functionally, like, in terms of their resources, separate. And, have to do it all themselves.
No, yeah, because imagine having to wait for Administratum approval to get a new gunship because one blew up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'll be waiting... Well, I mean, your chapter master might still be alive to sign off for it.
Assuming there were no wars in the interim.
But yeah, if
in Dante's case, happens, maybe.
Well, yes. Oh, Dante. I kind of like that he is both ancient and his model is ancient at the same time. It's quite fun.
Yeah, I don't think the Space Marines even manage a budget. They just have resources and they do it. And they just take what they want from the resources of the world or from the resources of their affiliated Forge world. They possibly, send a guy to the Mechanicus as, balance and trade away a few slaves, but they don't work by probably a finance economy. It will be a trade economy for them. We need stuff. Here is some stuff. Oh, you have no stuff. Never mind. We still need the stuff and we're going to take it. Yoink.
Yeah, it's just to think of it in a modern kind of capitalist economy doesn't really work because it's so far detached from it. It's its own thing that is weird for its own reasons. And it's not something that, generally speaking, they tend to dive into that much because it's not concerned with bold men shouting and hitting each other with chainsaws, so it's not the most important to dive into in most circumstances.
Agreed.
Right. Do you think there's any chance of Malarian coming to tabletop? And if so, 2 questions. What would you want his miniature to look like, and how should his faction play on the tabletop?
Is there a chance? Yes, he is. He will. All the other Elven gods are here, apart from Tyrion, so why not Malarian? We already know what he's going to look like. We've got a picture of him with a sort of elven helm, a horned, crested elven helm with massive claws and draconic wings, sort of as a shadow dragon demon type thing. So we already know what the upper half of Malarian will look like, and I assume the lower half is just more draconic, with elven armor and shadowy wisps and bits and bobs coming off of him, I suspect. Kind of like...
Be'lakor?
I was going to say like a less evil Be'lakor. I was going to say like good Be'lakor and then realised who I'm talking about. But as for how they'll play, I think I've talked about this before. I'd quite like them to really emphasise trickery rather than brute force. Like, it's the Shadow King's... He's the Shadow King. It's his domain. He runs Ulgu. And being able to get around it and understand the shadow paths and all that stuff, that feels more like the way he would play. Like, he can conquer through brute force if he has to, but his main thing that we know about him is he gave Sigmar the Sigmarabulum, or the Gladiatorium, which is just a giant arena of infinite respawn buttons where he gets to spy on them. So he's devious. He works behind the scenes, and he'll smash you in the face if you try to stop him. So yeah, I think trickery, whilst it would be a really unfun mechanic to play against, is probably the way that thematically they should play.
Fair
personally.
Enough. Right. What kind of psychers and anti-psyker units will the Tau Empire and Enclave have?
I don't think they're ever going to give them to them.
I do remember seeing someone's concept art of a Tau anti-psyker soldier where it had like psychic power being channeled through a pulse rifle, and it was connected to the heads, still living heads of psychers attached to their backs and stuff like that, in jars. I thought that was kind of cool.
I mean, it would be very easy for them to make them and just have them be an allied race.
They exist. There are Tau psychers in the auxiliaries.
Yeah. That'd be something very easy for them to do, but sometimes it's less about what is, canonically possible and more about what works for game balance and to maintain a character to an army. And I suppose that's not a thing they want to do, which is fair.
Yeah, I think it is important that each race has a couple of defining things that make them unique. So the Tau they have better shooting than everybody else, but they have no psychic defense or psychic offense. So there's a trade-off. They rely on their technology. The Necrons are the same. They rely on their technology, but in lieu of psychic powers, they channel things like plasmancy and things like that. They have their own way around the problem. Whereas the Tau just don't, because they don't understand.
Their anti-psycho weapon is a big gun, which admittedly
is very effective.
The old film Wizards showed how accurate that is.
Indeed. Right. If Aunshi managed to escape Kamora and return to the Tau Empire and then later speaks to Farsight, would he be the bridge that could unite both factions?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I mean, out of all the Ethereals, he's the only one who probably has a chance of getting to speak to Farsight and say, hey, listen to me, please. Thank you. Because, people actually respect Aunshi because, Aunshi is an absolute badass.
Yeah. To which Farsight will go, no, you listen. Do you realise what's beyond the portal? You weren't there at Arthas Moloch. You didn't see it. But you knew about it. You and the Ethereals. You knew. You know what's there, and you didn't tell us. So this enlightened group of 5 casts, 1 people working together is a lie. And it will end in either violence, which is probably a very nice way to make Chaos Farsight, if you want to go down the Horus Heresy Mark II Electric Boogaloo, then having Farsight strike down Aunshi in anger in order to make him a vessel of Khorne, yeah, it's a good way of doing it. But I don't think it's going to lead to reunion in any way. Farsight is done listening to the Ethereals.
God, I need to make a Farsight army. I really want one.
Yeah, I've got one as well. They're so cool.
He's so cool. And just the general theme of everything, I have a type, in case you can't tell, since I made a Grot Rebellion army, that'd be fun.
What does Squat Rebellion army even be? What they're rebelling against? We don't want beards, so we're going to be shaving ourselves clean.
I go breaking away from the Imperium.
Well, Squat's already away from the Imperium, aren't they?
Well, 100%, not even slightly.
So basically just break the treaties.
Yeah, just screw you all.
Do they all sound like kind of screw you guys, I'm going home. Oh no, you've been eaten by nids again.
I would prefer not.
Well, prefer not to sound like Carmen, or prefer not to be eaten by nids?
I mean, either of those things, honestly.
Right, anyway. Why did the Alpha Legion support the Thousand Sons during the battles of the Fang? Because it's the Alpha Legion, so they probably just want to fuck around with everyone. Probably.
For reasons unknowable to mortal men.
To maintain the balance between chaos and humanity.
My goals are beyond your understanding. I believe the meme goes.
Yeah, something like that.
Right. In a scenario where the Tau destroy their homeworld because of Nurgle, if the Enclaves become the one in charge, would they kill the Ethereals, or would Farsight tell them to shut it and go in the corner and stay there?
Right, okay, so we've now got 2 episodes of fanfiction. Right, I need to go back through and write all this down into one collective thing where I've got a written log of what I've already said.
You can make it into a video.
Who knows, maybe.
Who knows, Ian? This might be my next movie. Sorry. It's been a while since we made any sort of reference like that.
Yeah, that was good. Fair play. Right. Enclaves come in, save... Does it manage to drive off the Nurgle with the Tau home while it's lost in the Earth? Become the dominant force in the... Yeah, okay, I remember that now. Right. Honestly, I don't think they kill the Ethereals, but it's kind of more of a Vichy France type situation of they are there because they are someone that the rest of the people will listen to. Killing them will just create a greater divide. Probably. Like, go stand in a corner. Why should we listen to you? You don't speak with the voice of the owl. We kill the Ethereals. You are a traitor to the Tau people, and now you will die for it because it's what the Tau do. Whereas use them as like a puppet because the Ethereals know, okay, we've been boxed into a corner here. This is one dilly of a pickle. They might just be like, okay, yeah, we'll be your mouthpiece.
I really cannot get out of my head now Tau having the phrase dilly of a pickle. I'm sorry, that's just in my head now, and that is all I'm going to talk about. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Oh, they're all Ned Flanders. They've all got mustaches. Oh my goodness. Okay, you carry on. I'll have this crisis in my own private corner here.
There was one question I saw. I don't know if it got carried over, which I really like the look of. Which says, if Isha was given the opportunity to escape the realm of Nurgle, would she take it? Or would she stay to try and counteract Nurgle's creations continually?
I think she'd probably try to escape and then try to work on a way of countering Nurgle's creations from a safe hiding spot, probably.
Probably. Because, to be fair, like that's what Nurgle does, is he feeds his concoction to Isha to test it and then decides what goes down into the realms. Or into the galaxy, depending on which way you look at it.
Out of the warp.
So if Isha was gone, then Nurgle has no test subject, so there's far more stuff just being dunked out in general. Or there's more, well, I don't know. It has broader consequences than just Isha can't help. Because then Nurgle has no perfect test subject. Also, Slaanesh will probably want Isha at that point.
Yeah, but Isha could probably just go into the web body like what Chigorak did.
This is true.
It's probably going to go, nah, fuck you can't follow us in here, piss off. Oh. Any more on your end?
How much longer will the Inquisition continue to mess with the Celestial Lions before A, they have enough and give up, or B, the Black Templars go and have a word?
They'll keep going until the Celestial Lions are destroyed, probably.
Yeah, there's nothing the Black Templars can do about it.
It's like you hurt our brothers. Like, yeah, but we aren't straight to the Emperor. Fuck off.
Yeah, though not entirely without precedent, the Inquisition is not generally one to give up on a thing, so...
Yeah, the one time I've seen the Inquisition back down is when Bjorn the Fell-Handed teleported onto their strike cruiser when they tried bombing Fenris.
And even then, wasn't it only because, like, oh shit, you're the guy who was around when the Emperor walked and the Primarchs were still around. Yep. Okay, we'll listen to you then, I'll respect.
I mean, to be fair, the Space Wolves are the Imperial faction that are the... You know what? They're just too much hassle to deal with. They can just do their thing. Just,
There was actually what's it called? The equivalent of the Tome Celestial. What did they call them? The little articles in White Dwarf about different chapters.
Index of Stars?
That's it. Index of Stars. The Wolf Spear got one this month.
Oh, nice.
The Space Wolves successor. They seem to have retconned them having a homeworld, by the way. So, back in the I know this is with the changing of the timeline, but I remember at the end of the Indomitus Crusade, Guilliman gave the Wolf Spear the world at the edge of the Narcomound Gauntlet, as I recall.
Yeah, but this wouldn't be the first time that White Dwarf has made an Index Styles article that doesn't make sense. Exorcists!
Yeah, because now the Wolf Spear have just gone charging off into the Dark Imperium and hunt as 7 autonomous.
So basically, they become a cross between Space Wolves, the Black Templars, and the Raven Guard.
Yeah, they have Jarls instead of
Wolf
Lords. So they pay deference to Fenris, but also they're all about stealthy hunting and that sort of thing. They're like Shadow Wolf type. Terror tactics to an extent. Yeah,
no, that's kind of cool because I guess that it does mean that because if you've got them, I know obviously this doesn't really mean anything, but like you've got them like attached to one homeworld, then it can the risk runs that then they just become off-brand Space Wolves. Whereas you go, no, okay, they throw them out there, they can be their own thing, do something different. Like it forces them to have a bit more of their own identity, like. Because even the most basic elements of the chapter are separate from their parent legion, I guess, you know.
I'll be honest, the most interesting thing I found in that entire article was the fact that they name-dropped another Space Wolf successor, but didn't actually say anything about them. Oh. That being the Ice Fang chapter.
Okay.
It's like, oh yeah, the Wolf Spear along with the Ice Fangs. It's like, who the fuck are the Ice Fangs?
It's so wild to me that like after so many years of like nope, there's absolutely no Space Wolf like successors. There was Wolf Brothers, but that didn't go great. Absolutely none. And now it's just like it's cool. There's loads of them now. It's like
it's three of them now, even though one of them has actually been destroyed because Wolf Brothers haven't been reformed yet, which is a bit weird because you think like considering that the fucking Soul Drinkers got reformed as a Primara show, you think the Wolf Brothers would have been, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but the Wolf Brothers was a horrible disaster experiment gone wrong. The Soul Drinkers...
The Soul Drinkers...
I know.
The Soul Drinkers were led by a Snyder.
I know, but the Soul Drinkers, at least in the eyes of many, went out... They were renegades, but they weren't traitorous, mutated monsters. I know
they were declared excommunicate traitoris.
But then the whole thing on the Phalanx, the Soul Drinkers kind of had their honour restored, and the Imperial Fist would have probably said, you know what? We know about the story of the Soul Drinkers. Why not? Because at the end of the day, the parent chapter the parent legion, particularly the early days, must have had a say in some of the naming conventions.
I mean, that would also, that could explain the Wolf Brothers thing, because it's not something the Space Wolves like to remember, and they're a very superstitious chapter, so, them saying, don't do that, would make sense.
I suppose.
And they do actually talk about the fact that they name themselves after Russ's weapon, because the symbology of it is the Wolf Spear was forged for Russ by the Emperor. Russ didn't like it, but he used it.
Wasn't that the one he tried to throw to a moon or something?
It's the one he used to try and kill Horus.
It's the one he tried to leave behind on Terra, and then Constantine Valens said, by the way, you left this in the pan. It's like, for fuck's sake, thank you.
But the Wolf Spear it's a really lovely double entendre because, yes, it's Russ's weapon, it's very iconic, but also they are a weapon of terror forged away from Fenris, given to Fenris.
And the Space Wolves don't like it.
And the Space Wolves have just had to put up with it and accept it as, all right, fine. And so it's a lovely double entendre of the naming convention.
But how do they feel about the Ice Fangs, though? That's the real question.
Don't know.
Maybe it's because there's still that image of Rhinox from Beast Wars in the chat, but Ice Fang does very much sound like a 90s toy to me. Like it is a Maximal.
It's a Pokemon move.
I think Ice Fang actually was a transform from Transformers Universe.
That would not surprise me. This is unrelated, but I bought the relatively new Sharkticon Nor the other day, and I'm so happy. He makes me so happy. Such a little goofy thing. I love him.
Yeah, I think Ice Fang was a recolor of the Jawbreaker toy.
Okay.
Which was a Trans Metal 2 Hyena. Oh, no, wait, no, that was Frostbite, sorry. Frostbite, Ice Fang, close enough.
It's fine. It's the knockoff version that like some third party company makes. That's more screen accurate or whatever.
Yes. Also, do you know there's a transform that turns into a box of popcorn?
Nothing surprises me anymore, but I'm very glad.
Anyway, what were we talking about before this? Oh yeah, Space Wars, right. Shows that. I wanted to see more though about the Astral Bears chapter. You know, that White Scar successor that was like name dropped in their Codex supplement and never mentioned again.
That would be a good one for an Index Astartes, I'll give you.
And we can go, hey Zoran, we've got a chapter for you.
I suppose there is a thing, like, because I mean, you know, throughout the years they've just name dropped chapters left and right, and then half the time never done anything with them. I kind of like that they do that because it gives people like an inroad to make their own chapter, because like, you know, you can just come up with your own chapter and do everything yourself, but like sometimes you see people who like go, okay, so there's this chapter that was mentioned in the lore, and we're not given anything about them beyond the name and sometimes maybe a colour scheme, and then people go out of their way to craft their own version of it. And I kind of like that, so I do kind of like it when they just name drop something and then never elaborate on it. Because it allows people to do that. I don't know. That's just something I like.
That's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, works both ways. Like, I think the balance that Age of Sigmar struck with the Stormcast Eternals, which is kind of obviously the equivalent of Space Marines, is they've got in their battle tome like 2 pages given over to just alternate colour schemes. And like, how many different colour schemes do they put in there? Give me a moment. Because it's a lot. It's a serious lot of different colour schemes they put in front of you. I just need to find them.
It's serious business. Serious.
But yeah, no, it's I mean, it's I do find it quite fun. Like, you know, you root around the edges of the lore and like, oh, this thing was mentioned, and then it's like things that you would want to know. Like, the one thing that's always I've always wondered, like, because, you know, like the whole like there's the how canon is anything about the Rainbow Warriors anymore sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well,
but
they
then
were
you've also
mentioned
got,
in the 6th and 7th edition Space Marine Codex. So, like, they
And then
actually
you've
had
also-
like they took part in the Bloodstar campaign and lost their chapter master.
And then you've got the near identical looking, except for the rainbows themselves, Deathstrike, that have the same icon, but it's just yellow instead of white, and are the same blue. And I think they also have the last time I saw anything about them, they still had a helmet stripe, but it was just a solid yellow one as opposed to the rainbow one. And it's like, okay, are these supposed to both exist in canon at the same time, or was the Deathstrike intended to be like kind of a reuse of assets, and then you just never did that, so they kind of just both exist now? Or is it just one of those chapters that has the same icon, like a bunch of them do?
It's probably the latter, considering that the Rainbow Warriors were stated outright to be Ultramarine successors, while Deathstrike are Imperial Fists. Like, they got mentioned in... it was one of the Space Marine battle novels where it had the Feast of Blades going on, and there was like someone from the Deathstrike there at the tournament.
Legion of the Damned.
That's the one, yeah. She also had an Excoriator taking on a...
Black Templar.
No, it was a White Templar, wasn't it?
Was it? I feel like the final was against the Black Templar.
It was probably the final, but there was like an early point in the story where he defeated someone from the White Templars.
Possibly. I'd have to go reread it.
And then Gino would turn around and say, hey, guess what? White Templars, they thought they were Imperial Fists. Turns out they're not, and now we're on a quest to discover the truth of their origins.
I mean, this is the thing. You've got so much, like, stuff that, you know, the difference between what is currently canonically true, what was canonically true, and what was the intention of the original creator are 3 separate things that sometimes are 3 different things. So
yeah. We just go by what Gab Thorpe said, which is basically like, you know, unless old lore has been directly contradicted by newer lore, it's still canon.
Yeah, which is why Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau is still a canonical character who is real.
Exactly. Non-canon by omission is not a thing.
Yeah, going back to the Stormcast, I found the page. There's 15 of them on this page, and it's just 15 different colour schemes, but it gives you one sentence about them. So it gives you their name, their colour scheme, and a sentence. So, for example, the Blooded Dawn are a storm host who have a mutual disdain for the Hallowed Knights, who abhor this storm host's bloody purges. Okay, they're a purgation type. Right, so you're going to be using certain types of weapons, certain types of units. The Crimson Seraphs have gone to Shyish to search for a cure for a reforging floor. Okay, they probably have loads of Sacrosanct. Just one sentence gives you just a direction of which way to start, and then you can build out from there. That's personally for me, that's the right way to do it, because it gives just enough to start you off.
Yeah.
It's an army prompt.
It's a lot better than
what you get. Hey, it looks cool.
It's better than what we get with a lot of Space Marine chapters, like, the Death Knights are a Space Marine chapter.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I think I have. We have joked about that in a couple of videos of like, what's the canon for this? They are a Space Marine chapter. That is the canon.
But what about this chapter? Oh, they are a chapter of Space Marines rather than a Space Marine chapter, you see.
Ah. Or what's really fun is when you'll read they'll have a bunch of lore there in like and a thing, and you'll read through it and you'll go, where did you get that from? It's just like it's just like, oh yeah, this was like not mentioned anywhere, but we're inferring. Like, oh, okay.
I admit there's a fair few lore videos where it's read an article and infer some stuff. That happens a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes you kind of gotta, because there isn't stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing here. I need to say something, but there's nothing here.
Like, as long as you're upfront about that, because then you don't end up with situations, where half of the 40k fandom thinks things are true that just aren't.
I remember when speaking of inferring, Tag, I remember when you thought I was being overly pedantic when I had a section on my Penitent Engine video where I titled a section Engines of Penance, and I was like, oh, that's because there's two different types, you see. Because you have the Penitent Engine, you have the Anchorite Engine. It's like, so that's why they're both called Engines of Penance. Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you are cross-referencing and checking each other's work, it's just, is there a reason why you're saying it that way? Or is there a reason why you're not calling it this? Like, aren't they the same thing? Or, I thought this was the case. Have you got... proofreading each other's work is one of the best ways to double-check your own personal knowledge.
Yeah. And also, this is also a perfect time to remind everyone that there are two chapters. One's called The Scythes of the Emperor, and the other's called The Emperor's Scythes, and they're not even related to each other, because one's yellow and black, and the other's purple.
Did they ever? Because I know there was like the Raptors and Raptors were two separate chapters. That at least when I looked into it, no one was quite sure if one was a retcon of the other. Because one's like the original ones were like blue and yellow.
Yeah, I think. From what I understand, I think the original blue and yellow was basically retconned into the olive green. Kind of like how the salamanders used to be, orange and black, and then they got retconned into green.
We've all seen that colour scheme.
Yeah. But
I remember seeing someone saying that the Space Sharks and the Kakarodons were separate chapters. Like, they're the same chapter, though. Because what's the full name of the Kakarodons? Kakarodons Astra. What does that stand for? It's High Gothic for Space Sharks.
Yeah, it's just Space Sharks is a line too far. They're okay with calling them Space Wolves, but Space Sharks... Space
Sharks sounds very cheesy in the 80s. You can get away with it in the 1980s. You can't really get away with it in the more serious, 2010s or whatever. Yeah. But Kakarodon...
Don't get me wrong.
There's a Kakarodon novel coming out this week. Just randomly.
Say that again, sorry?
Silent Hunters.
That's the paperback version. The hardback's been out for a while.
Oh, oops. Sorry, ignore me.
Yeah. I'm staring at my hardback copy on my shelf right now.
I absolutely love the Space Sharks, and I really like their old scheme. But I get why they did what they did with them.
I guess you could say that they're jawsome.
Yeah. I have a soft spot for them, because the one time I won like a painting competition was by painting an old school Space Shark, and then being an insufferable arsehole by when saying, oh yeah, really nice Kasharan, and I'm like, it's not a Kasharan, it's a Space Shark. I painted it specific. Yeah, I've heard every pronunciation of it under the sun, and it's hard to internalise one of them over the others.
Just think of Kakarodon Megalodon.
Yeah.
Which is what they're named after, obviously, because sharks.
But yeah, I always insist, no, it's a Space Shark. I painted the old logo because I'm a hipster.
Now your beard's
and then really annoyed someone because they were like, "Oh wait, I paint space sharks, and you can actually paint the icon for them." Oh, it's really hard. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why I painted it on one thing that I spent several hours doing, as opposed to painting an army of them.
It could be worse. You could have been painting a Lamenter and hand painting the checkered patterns.
You mean like I do?
Why do you freehand checkers?
It's easy to freehand checks. I've painted orcs and lamenters.
Yeah, you played orcs. Painting goth checks takes
painting
a lot.
freehand checks with yellow.
Yeah, it's
Yellow
I
is
started
ridiculously hard to paint.
Yeah, like
anything
one
harder
of my
is white.
my low-key one of my low-key projects at the moment is slowly building a small rogue trader lamenters force. So not only are they yellow and checks, but I'm also painting them on wonky as hell models that make the checks even harder to make them straight. Because the shoulder pads aren't symmetrical.
You're insane.
Why?
Because I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like it is an absolute nightmare. But when you get the finished model at the end, like that color scheme and that iconography, just really makes a rogue trader model pop in a way that other things don't. So I don't know. I'm a lunatic, I guess. But yeah, I think I've currently got 3 line troopers done and a jet bike chaplain. So I've not got much of them done yet.
I think is about as far as I could take a project like that. Is about a squad.
Yeah. I basically what I want. I mean, to be fair, what I wanted to get them to was to have a combat patrol. And the only reason I haven't got that already is just because the price of Rogue Trader miniatures has skyrocketed over the last couple of years. And so I've had to be very careful with my purchases.
Can imagine.
But yeah, yes, it is a nightmare, but the end result is nice. So I'm okay with it. And yeah, checks aren't difficult. You just literally paint a grid and then fill in the alternate ones.
That requires a seriously steady hand, though.
Fair. But you can make it a little easier by you do your initial outline in like a dark grey on the black kind of background, and then you can kind of fill it in. You can also I guess you could also paint it white and do it with like a pen, like a and the kind of pen that works like that. That some people use for like painting panel lines and stuff. You could do that. There's ways and means around like the most difficult color schemes. There's usually like ways and means around making it less bad.
Fair. And on that bombshell,
on that bouncing bombshell,
I think that's a good place to end.
Okay.
So ending out Wib isn't saying for painting an entire Lamentus force, right?
No, we're ending on some very sound painting advice for aspiring painters looking to paint difficult patterns.
Tomato.
We're going to end on a positive.
Also, a really good recipe for yellow. Just a couple of coats of Avalon Sunset, Dawn Yellow highlight, and wash it with Rakarth Flesh. Gives a really nice, vibrant yellow. And it doesn't actually take that many coats, even over black, because Avalon Sunset just has really good coverage.
The more you know. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that lovely piece of advice. And thank you very much, Wib, for joining us on this episode of Adeptus Podcastus. It has been wonderful to catch up.
Not a problem at all. I always enjoy coming on, and thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And, we both proved now that you guys are more than capable of doing solo runs as well. It does always seem like you guys have always come as a package. I understand why it's a package deal, but it's always been a package deal with you two. So
yeah, everyone always treats us like that, I guess, because like we do the content together. So people do that. So like the only time we appear on our own is when it's something that is like, we'll do a guest voice line for something, and one of us is.
Oh, you've got Men with Funny Heads with Longfang, don't you?
Yes. We need to do another episode of that at some point. But yeah,
always need to do another episode of something.
Always need to do more episodes of everything.
Yeah. And with that, thank you as well to Remleiz for joining us as always. And good catching up. I know we didn't get a chance to talk any books this week, but I'm sure we will at some point.
Yes. Considering that I've finished reading The Oubliettes, so that'd be interesting to talk about next episode.
Is that Warhammer Horror?
It is, yes.
Okay, I might give the next episode a miss then. Sorry, horror and me do not go well together.
In fairness, I will say this about the book. Considering it's called Warhammer Horror, it's not really horrific. It's more, if anything, it's more of a crime thriller.
Okay, I can get on board with that.
Interesting.
So why isn't it? Okay, no.
It's the same reason why Requiem Infernal isn't Warhammer Horror, even though Requiem Infernal is a much more horrific book.
Fair. Right, well, with that little teaser to warm you up for next time, we will now actually end the episode of the third attempt. So, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all your questions, as always. This has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And I'm Web in it.
In it.
And that was Adeptus Podcastus. We'll see you all again. Goodbye.
Bye.